been a while since we've had a story time. I should do a story time, I think. What should I tell a story of?
Oh, God. Hold on to your butts, people.
The proper term is prepare your anuses.
Why Ron McDonald got arrested?
No, this is a story about the little man who waves at you when you're going to the entrance of a bathroom. You know, the little icon guy. Well, that guy, his name is actually Joseph Poughkeepsie, and he's from Ohio. And he's a regular average guy who has regular average hair, regular average face, regular average teeth, and lives a regular average life in his middle class regular average averaging. One day, he stood outside, and when he was about to mow his lawn, then the time and space ripped open. He stared at the void of nothingness that was beyond time and space, when suddenly out of nowhere came an angel, and the angel spoke to him and said, "John, you're really fucking boring. We've got to spice your life up somehow, otherwise God's just going to smite you. I don't want that to happen, because I've got my money on you, John. You're going to make me rich and powerful." And John sort of stood there and looked at the angel and said, "Okay, what would you have me do?" And the angel said, "Sir, we're having a problem with men and women using the same bathroom. We don't know how to explain to them that men and women pee differently and that they shouldn't judge each other based on how they pee, and yet somehow they mock each other, and they do. Women find it uncomfortable that men are peeing in the same room as they are, and men find it uncomfortable that they can't stick their dicks in the women that are peeing. It's a very awkward situation. So we need you, John. We need you, John, to become a sign for your people." And John looked at him with stars in his eyes, and he knew exactly what he must do. And he said, "Yes, angel, I will do this. I will do this for God and for your profit and fortune as well. Hopefully I'll make a buck off of it." And the angel laughed at him and said, "Ha, you ain't going to make shit off this," then went away. And time and space recoalesced, John came back to his senses. It was 17 years later. His wife had passed away from cancer. His son was a crack addict, and his daughter had been knocked up by 17 different men, and she had 47 different babies. Depressed, John knew exactly what he had to do. He took two pieces of white paper out, and a double-barrel shotgun. He pasted the paper to the wall and took the shotgun and blew his head off. Fortunately for John, though, he managed to complete his mission. The little man and the little woman who waves at you before you enter the bathroom were the remains of his brains on the paper. That's when Officer Mahoney, who stepped into the crime scene, decided to confiscate the papers as evidence, quote-unquote, and then used that... then sold those pictures as the pictures you see on the bathroom stalls. It is all thanks to Johnny. Of course, Officer Mahoney got all the fucking money. Turns out that Officer Mahoney was the one who drugged John that day, and he was just waiting for John to make that special picture for him to sell. He finally sold it and made a ton of money. God had nothing to do with it.
The bathroom pictures wave at you in America? Here they're just standing up and down.
Sometimes they're waving, sometimes they're not.
Most of the times they're not waving. There's always an Officer Mahoney involved somewhere. Slick Rob, she had a very loose vagina.
It was commonly referred to as the chunnel.
Like I said, Slick Rob, very loose vagina. Very loose. She was gambling on the NFL prospect. That's why she only dated black men, but it turned out she just made 47 babies. In a row? Yes, in a row, K-Dog. K-Bone, K-Dog, whatever.
Well, obviously not at once.
Well, some of them at once, but mostly in a row.
In a row? Let me tell you a story about a man named Jeremiah. He was a very calm and pleasant man to be around. He had a long white beard and a strange black hat that he wore on his head, and often quoted verses from the Bible. But John was no regular Amishman. Oh, no. See, John was a very average, calm person and didn't react to most anything. He would, in fact, be the one to give calm, soothing, sage advice to people in case they lost their heads and they needed somebody to calm them down and think straight for them. John was the well-trusted man of the community. Until one day, when two teenagers decided that they needed to fuck with John. Jeremiah, not John. John's the guy who blew his head off. Maybe related to Jeremiah, though. We don't know yet. Jeremiah was walking down the dirt road one day, and he was reciting some verses of the Bible when a couple of teenagers, about 3 of them, came up to him and started to pick on him and mess with him. Started to abuse him for his ways. Well, what they didn't understand about Jeremiah is that while he was a very patient man, he was no knockover, because Jeremiah was one of the old gods, In fact, as he was getting picked on, he could feel the rage swell in him and decided that he needed to teach these heathens a lesson. The old god started to grow horns, fangs, fire flew from his mouth, wings erupted from his back, and hooves formed at his feet. Jeremiah was one of the ancient gods who demanded sacrifice and told the three teenagers, "If any one of you decides to sacrifice the other two, I will let you live." The three teenagers were scared, too scared to do anything. They'd never killed anyone before, less alone themselves or their own friends. They had no idea what to do. And then Jeremiah looked at them and said, "If you do nothing, I shall kill all three of you." And the three teenagers looked at each other and started to run away from the old god, who at this time grew to 23 feet tall, and he was growling, breathing fire and farting lightning. And he was very angry, angry old god. Which point the old god caught up to the three teenagers and said, "Ha! You think you can outrun me? You think you can outrun your fate? I demand sacrifice." He took the three teenagers into his hands, and he said, "Which one of you shall be my sacrifice? I'll let one of you pick the other two, and then I'll let that one live." But they were still too scared. They were being held in the hands of a 27-foot and growing old god. The old god decided, "Bah, to hell with you," and ate all three of them. Still unsatisfied, Jeremiah continued to grow as the old god. He grew and grew until finally he could grow no more, at which point he let out the world's largest fart and then had to pee. He pissed for 40 days and 40 nights, and then a drunk man named Noah decided that this was a sign of God for him to build an ark. But honestly, it was really just Jeremiah who had to pee. And afterwards, he came back down reading his Bible and walking along the path, the three teenagers never to be seen from again, and Noah, who got lost at sea in a small wooden boat because he was high on ecstasy.
That's a new spin on the Bible.
I think that's the story we should be teaching children.